I'm gonna use the for most of this, but I might jump over to the live side a little bit too. So right now, like I said, with automations, there's one particular area that we're using these for. Like if you go to look for them right now, you won't find them because it's a permission based functionality. We haven't really enabled it widely yet. Um, but under this icon, the list in searches, this is where you would see them. So right now, like I said, you won't really see anything here. Um, but in the future, if we kind of enable this, this is where they would live. They would live in the my saved items. So if you got your lists, your searches, your reports, and then automations would be here. So as I mentioned, what you can do with automations is it's kind of it works like this. It's an if and a then. So if the student matches the criteria in either a search that you have or a report, like a saved report, then you can do one of these actions. So you could send a message, you could issue an alert, you could add to different kinds of campaigns. And um, so once you have established these parameters, your if and your then statement, then you have the ability to then set like a duration for the automation. So, like, is it something you would run for a semester, a whole year, multi-year? I mean, like the options here are varied. Like you can really determine like a length of time. And then of course the frequency, like how often should the automation run? So you can run it daily, weekly, monthly, and you choose the time of day that you want it to run. So so the setup kind of hopefully as I've explained it is very, very basic, right? It's like there's an if statement, and if the students match the criteria, then something happens. But what are the if what kind of if statements could you have? Well, in the example I provided earlier, we have an alert. So what we're using for this example is we're using a saved report, and it's an alert report that looks at students who have been issued an alert for future teachers. And what it's then doing is it's putting them into an appointment campaign. And so that is essentially what that is doing for that department is it's cutting down a lot of work because it's automatically taking the alert, it's taking the student, putting it into the campaign, sending the student an email, inviting them to make an appointment. And then as you know, through campaigns, you can then determine like who has made appointments, who hasn't made appointments, and you can kind of track that over time to determine like, okay, X amount of alerts were issued and Y amount of students came in and made appointments with us. So it's a way that we can really just save time and not have to do a lot of manual reporting. We can just simply create this automation so that it does a lot of this work for us. And then at the end of the semester or the end of the year, we can then go back and look and say like, oh, this was great. We had X amount of alerts, Y amount of students, and then kind of sort of like analyze that and determine how we would want to move forward. But other ways to think about this is, if you can recall from an earlier session, or if you're familiar with the advanced search, there are all these different filters that you can run lists from. And so one type of automation, and I'm just thinking about things kind of generally, but like, kind of like on your own, you should also think about like how would this apply to me? Um, but one that I thought about was like major changes, right? So you have students who are changing majors, and let's say they're coming into a major, whatever department you're in, and you want to know like who those students are, and then maybe you also want to then communicate to them, welcome to the major. You recently changed your major, welcome. Here's some information about our office. Here's how to make an appointment. Um, so what you could do is you could set up a search through the advanced search filters that and I have one set up already here. Active philosophy majors. So this search is basically looking for any student who is a philosophy major. Okay. And because it's a saved search, saved searches are dynamic. So anytime I run this, it's going to refresh the filters and it's going to look for students who meet that criteria. And so right now I have 81, and the training site, again, reminder that the data is not like it's not fresh. But in this example, I have 81 students that are philosophy majors. Tomorrow, like I could run this, and hypothetically, I could have more. Maybe there's a student who's changed their major and is now classified as a philosophy major, or a student who's declared that as a second or a double major, right? So this number would be 82 or 83, whatever the case may be. So we're this advanced search, the saved search is dynamic because it's looking in real time whenever you run it, and it's looking for the students who meet the criteria. So going back to the automation, I've got my saved search, and maybe what I would want to do is I would want to send these students a message. And what this will do, and when you in certain cases, like there's an option to omit initial matches. So this would essentially, by selecting this box, I'm saying I only want to message new students, right? So you want to think about it in terms of like, so maybe we're not really concerned about our currents. We're looking for those students that are newly entering that major, right? So I would omit the initial matches. And so when the automation runs, it looks for new students, and then it sends them a message, right, based on this this action here. And from here, I would just set up my message. I would give it a subject, a body. I can maybe add an attachment, and then I would determine, when do what is the duration? So I could start this, let's say the beginning of the semester, run it through the end of the semester, run it for a whole year. It could just be ongoing. Um, And then I would determine, do I want this to run daily, weekly, monthly? So maybe I would just want this to run once a week, maybe every Monday at 8 a.m., right? I could just run it once a week. And so it'll look for, so once a week, it's going to run that search. It's going to look for new matches, so new students who are not on my original list, and it's going to send them the message, right, that I create. And so that type of automation is something that could be set up to, again, like save time, but also as like a convenient way to communicate with these students who are new to the major, new to your, they're new to your center, because now you're responsible for advising them. And so you can provide that information without having to do anything. You just set this up, and it will run. It'll automate. We could also we could also take that same save search, and then maybe we would want to add them to an appointment campaign or a message campaign. So the difference between send a message and a message campaign is that this message would be like a one-off. The message campaign could be like it's a campaign, so you could have multiple messages as part of that campaign. If you choose appointment campaign, maybe when you get new majors, you want them to make an appointment with you so that you could do that initial advising with them, and kind of get them set up in the right trajectory to get onto their graduation or whatever. Um, Let me think here. Okay. So so another Another type of automation, and this might be a little redundant, is looking at maybe not necessarily looking at a particular major, but maybe looking like on a more broader level, like as a let's say the college level. And I want to look at just undergraduates, let's just say. So I got ECS, I've got my undergraduate degrees in here, and maybe I want to look for students um, with a particularly like a low GPA. So I could just choose my GPA filters here. Um, let's say a max of 2.5. And so then I could run this search. And so what I'll get here is, so I get a list of students that are active students, so undergraduate degree UGD, um, in the College of ECS, either in a Bachelor of Science or BA program with a max cumulative GPA of 2.5. And so maybe this isn't considered like an at-risk population. And so I can um, I can save this as ECS at risk. And I'm not making assumptions that these students are really at risk. I'm just kind of like using this as an example here. Um, so now I have a new saved search, and I can then what I want to do with these. And again, these are all just I'm throwing out ideas, right? So like everything I'm saying is like just for you to hopefully to plant a seed in your brain to think about how this would work for you in your own area. Um, but I can take my, I'm gonna refresh here. So I could take this at-risk search, and then maybe I want to put them in, or I want to issue an alert, right? So I want to issue an alert because there's something that I'm concerned about, right? I'm concerned about uh, their academic progress, or they're in, like I might assess that as some sort of academic difficulty, and so I want to put an alert out there so that to track these students, so that others know that there's a concern. Um, Alerts can also be automated, so there's just there could be many reasons to issue an alert. So by using this automation, again, I'm taking a population of students and I'm issuing this alert based on the criteria that I determined in this search. Now, obviously, to do this example with the alert, I would have to have the alert created. There's other components to this that sort of are like implied in a way. So we'd have to have an alert ready. We'd have to have sort of like a plan for that alert. But but this is something that like could be done for those at-risk students um, that that we're concerned about. We want to keep track of, and also just as an FYI, and I don't know if it's ever really been mentioned, but alerts can be positive alerts, neutral, or negative alerts. So there could be a situation where you want to issue a positive alert, and that would be doable as well, right? So when we create alerts, we have the option to create them in those different kind of categories. And with alerts, obviously we can do different things with them. So it really, again, throwing it back to you all about like how could this work for you, right? And that's the homework that you have, is like to think about like, all right, what could we do with this? And I don't want you to feel like there's expectations. I certainly don't have any. I'm just kind of throwing things out there for everybody to kind of think about. And I think I did see there was a question that popped up. Okay, so I see question, do the messages from automation get saved in the student's history communications? I believe they do. Yeah, I believe all the communications that get sent through TitanNet get saved in that conversations tab. So yeah, they should. So that question, yes. The other question, would this be able to report to us a list of who is new? Um, would this be able to report to us a list of who is new in our college each week? What about students who have moved out? So the answer to this question, Tanya, is yeah, it's not a simple answer. The answer to who is new is yes, because when you run the automation, let me go back here. When the automation is running, essentially this is what it I should have showed you this. This is what it looks like when the automation is created and running, is that you have um each time the automation runs, right? You can see these are so this is like a row for every day. So the 25th, you can see how it ran basically like every day. And then what you see is you see the processed, and then you see how many matches were found and how many actions were taken. So obviously the data in here, like there's a bunch of zero, like here, this one here, this row here had four. Um, you can click on the processed, and then you can see like who was processed as part of the automation. So in the major change scenario, you can definitely see like, okay, these students got picked up in the automation and they were processed and sent a message. So these are the students who were added to the major. The moving out though is I don't it's not that one. I'm not That's not really possible in this is not possible in this automation. However, I'm thinking about that. I mean, you could probably do some report comparisons and like do it that way, but again, the whole point of this is like not to have to do that kind of work. So probably the majors out would not be as easily to track, but certainly majors in. Like yes, like that's what this automation is doing. You can find the students who were moved in. You can find the students who were picked up as part of the automation, but moving out might be a little trickier. All right, you're welcome. Um, okay. Um, So any other questions about automations? Like I said, the campus, like we are running one of these with the alerts. It's adding to the campaign. I think it's working pretty well. I haven't really heard otherwise. Um, but if it's something you're interested in, then feel free to reach out to Farifta or myself or both of us, and we can have a discussion and just we can get it rolling for you if it's something you think that would be useful for you, make your work easier. Um, I mean, that's always my goal, is to make your jobs easier, take away some of these rote activities so that you can really have that more rich time with the students and not have to do all this busy work. Um, that's ideally what the technology should help us do. Okay. The next thing, if there are no other questions about automations, the next thing I want to kind of look at and talk about are progress report campaigns. So progress report campaigns, they exist within the campaign area, and they're here, right? Okay, so and I'm not sure if they're visible to you right now in the production site, just because we're not really using them. Um, but basically, the way a progress report campaign is, or actually, let me say what the intention of it is to identify um, students who are struggling in a course. And the progress report campaign, it is a partnership with instructors and faculty, and it does rely on the faculty participation. And that's really important, is that for progress reports to be successful, really the instructional side of things, the instructors or the faculty, they have to submit data to identify those students who are at risk of not passing a class. And so this is one of the bigger challenges with these progress reports is that we could create progress reports all day long, but if the instructors and the faculty aren't providing the data, they're not really that useful. So that's a discussion probably to be had at the more admin level with like deans and associate deans and making sure that we can get faculty active to actually submit the data. But let's talk a little bit about like how they work and like what you can get out of them. So basically you set up a campaign by giving it a name. You choose the term that you want. This email right here is an email that will get sent to the instructors. So this you would have full control over this. And generally with progress reports, you want the email to be like inviting, right? The email is to the instructor. So, you know, and it's something like, we're trying to identify students who are at risk of not passing math, um, 101, or we are trying to identify students who are at risk of not passing psychology, again, 200 or whatever. Um, so the subject would be inviting and encouraging. And then the message would also be descriptive about the intention of the progress report campaign. And you've got options to format and all this. And I think in my previous institution, when we did progress reports, which by the way were very successful, um, we had like templates. Essentially, we had templates that we used for these courses, and so like all instructors essentially got the same message, and they were, and they actually we were pretty successful with these. So the next thing you would do is you choose the students. And it just seems to be taking a little while to load. Okay, so while it's loading, essentially what when you get to this, oh, here we go. Okay. So there's three options here. The first option is basically like all the students enrolled for the term, like literally every student enrolled. Probably not the approach that we would take, at least not in the beginning. Um, Second option, select specific enrolled students and courses. Third option, select cohorts of enrolled students. So this middle option is what I call this like the course-based option, and it's kind of the one I'm most familiar with. And basically the way it works is you select the courses. Um, so, oh, okay, I don't have data in here. Essentially what you do is you select the courses and then the students show up in this, oh, here it is right here. Duh. I still don't think I have data in here. Let me see. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the data in here. Maybe I can do it. Yeah, sorry, I don't have the data. But essentially you would search for like the course here, and then it's going to list all of the courses and all the sections. And then what you can do is you can essentially select the sections that you want. You don't have to select all of them either. Like, let's say a course has like 25 sections and you only want to target specific sections because maybe those sections are like, maybe those sections are for athletes or maybe those sections are for like a, special like campus program, right? So you could target just those sections or you can select them all. Um, but basically they show up here, you select them. Once you select them, they show up here. And then what you would do is the next step is to define the behavior. And yeah, it wants me to select here. Okay, hold on. How can I do this? Ooh, okay, I don't have fall data in here. Let me see. Maybe I can do, yeah, I can't even go back in time, can I? Go back in. Let me just see if I can get data by going back in time. Um, hopefully though, at least my explanation, I'm hoping you can kind of see how this would, okay, let's see if we can get, yes, okay. All right, so at least I can kind of show you. Okay, so let's just say we want to look at, I don't know any of these classes, but let's just say this one right here, Math 106. So I'm going to just add this section of math here, okay, just as an example. This, so this right here is going to be, this setting is going to, so it says prevent new student requests from being sent to professors who've already received a request since the below date. What this setting ensures is that like you don't, essentially that you don't over request data from the same professor. Like it's it's basically like preventing you from requesting the same data from the same professor over and over again. So the date would be relative to when you run the progress report. If you're going to run multiple progress reports over the course of the semester, then that date is somewhat important. If you're only, let's say, running one progress report and that's it, the date doesn't really matter. And then this is a setting that essentially this is like what ends the progress report. So after whatever this date is, the professors, the instructors can no longer access the link and they can no longer submit the data. Okay. Um, this checkbox is just a thank you message that once they actually complete the progress report, it sends them a thank you. And this could be tailored, it's just generic right now, but it could be tailored. Okay. So again, just with the training site, I don't have basically I don't have students, but essentially what would show up in this step right here is a list of all the students so evaluation request to be sent. So it's going to list all the students and then the name of their professor, the course name, the section. Um, and so then you can see visually and it'll be a list of like all the students that are part of the progress report campaign, the instructors and all that. And then essentially the last step is to just send it complete. Once you send in complete, then it will, like immediately, it's going to start generating the emails to the instructors. And The instructor email, again, is the one that you created in that very first step. It's going to explain what the purpose is. It'll have a link. The instructor then can click on that link, and then that takes into the progress report form. The progress report form will list all of their students by class. So if there is a professor that's teaching multiple classes, um, and they have students in multiple classes that are part of the progress report campaign, it'll list them out. So course, students, the next course, the students, and so on. And so then the instructor then has then the ability to go through and then mark students at risk. There's configurations within that form about like different kinds of like feedback reasons, and there's other things on that side that we can configure, um, which down the road we would probably take a look at that. But when the instructor when they've completed all their progress reports, then essentially they can close it all out. And then there is a dashboard that would be available to look at all the different progress reports that the campaigns. So it's very similar to the like campaign dashboard that you probably see for your appointment campaigns, right? So it's very similar to this, um, but it's got it's more obviously more focused on the progress report campaign of the aspect of the progress report. Um, and yeah, so that's kind of how it works. And I do apologize. I should I should have maybe planned better with the data. But I hopefully you can kind of get a gist of like the concept of it and what um what it potentially could do. And I guess think about like what key courses in your area are like what are those trouble courses, right? Like are there like prerequisite courses that students need to complete before they can move on in a major? Are there just courses in general that students are there high DFW courses that you know of that students struggle in? Because the objective of the progress report is to get the data about students who are at risk of not passing the course. But once you have that data, then the question becomes, okay, well, what do we do? Well, a lot of times when students are struggling in courses, it's not really an advising issue. It could be more of like maybe they need tutoring, or maybe they need to get into an SI course if it's available, right? I mean, it could be advising, right? And I think advisors in a lot of ways serve as that mediator between like the resources on campus, right? Like if a student is in academic difficulty, the advisor is there to tell them what the resources are, help them navigate that landscape. Um, but really, what the support that they need might be tutoring, or they might need some support with like learning skills. And so like partnering, and I'm aware that some of the colleges have their own little tutoring centers. So like connecting with those folks, right? So the endeavor of progress reports is um, it's a partnership. It's a partnership between the person that creates the progress report campaign, the instructors, whatever support is going to be offered, whether that's going to be a tutoring center or some learning kind of specialist. Um, it's like it's the truest form of the coordinated care network because it does involve like multiple groups of people all working towards this like one goal. Um, but that's the gist of it. Does anyone have any questions about progress report campaigns? Um, I know the demo wasn't perfect, but hopefully I was able to explain it well enough. All right. So, oh, here's a question. Um, okay. So, the question in here, and this is good because we have plenty of time, and I'm happy to answer any kind of question. Question that came through. question. When should we update our availability for the up to the upcoming fall term? Um, I would say that's up to you. I mean, it really depends on you, like, but um, I think now is not a bad time to start looking at your availability for the upcoming semester. I think every center operates a little bit differently. So, like for sure, like whatever your operational practices are, but like um, now's not a bad time. However, just bear in mind that once you update availability, it becomes visible to the student. So any students, let's say, and continuing students, I'm mainly talking about right now, like if they happen to log in at TitanNet and they see you have an availability, like they can make those appointments, right? Unless there's sometimes there's parameters set up, but but yeah, it's really just whatever works best for you. But now's not a bad time. We're getting close to the start of the semester, so like looking at those fall availability, starting planning that out is probably not a bad idea. Good question.